Imam
In
in
a
the
rare
Gambia
situation,
found hospitality in the hands of prison officers and inmates. Police have released 4 journalists arrested during anti-government protests on Sunday. New rules bring about constraint in refugee movements with South Africa. These and more stories coming on the world today. Hello, it is 1706 GMT in our studios in Banjul. You are watching the World Today on Africa TV. I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in detail. Several people sustained injuries during 3 years Jotna Sunday demonstration at Sting Corner along the Joshua and Banjul highway, with others after police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. The situation turned violent between the police and the protesters, resulting to injuries and arrest of media personnel. Members of the 3 years Jotna executives were rounded up by police and held in custody for hours shortly after their planned protest turned chaotic. The pressure group called on President Adama Barrow to respect the 2016 coalition agreement and step down in January. Details of that in this story.
Dozens got hospitalized as police used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse anti-government protesters on Sunday. The mass demonstration turned violent, with police accusing protesters of violation of conditions of the permit issued to the Operation 3 Years Jotna movement.
We are not here to violate any law. We are not here to violate any law.
Shortly after the start of the protest, Office of the Inspector General of Police announced revocation of the permit it issued to the pressure group, warning that no one was allowed to stay out. Police in riot gears pushed protesters back to town, many of whom could be seen running for their lives. Pockets of protesters formed what they call a comeback in standing up their rights. Smoke radiated above head level within Joshua coming down to Westfield as a result of tear gas and emission from tires burned by angry protesters. Protesters were out to call on President Adama Barrow to honor his 2016 campaign promise and step down immediately. Barrow, who came to power as an independent candidate on the coalition of 8 political leaders, has vowed to complete a 5-year transitional term. A couple of street protests from last month have been relatively peaceful and straight to the point, but what appears to be a second leg for the 3 years Jotna is now taking a different form. Reporting for iAfrica TV News, I am Amifai.
Sunday, violent demonstration by the 3 years Jotna group and the police. Now we head to South Africa, where the law in South Africa regarding refugees is changing, with the latest of its own bringing some difficulties. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Zimbabwean-born Buto Leswe Nyati has been a refugee in South Africa for years now. He narrates his story and how the new regulations will likely affect him.
I started off as an asylum seeker and now I hold a refugee status from 2005. I am an activist, a political activist. I started off as a social activist in Zimbabwe a long time ago, in early 2000. And I was forced out of the country sometime in 2003, where I skipped the border into South Africa without even having a passport.
Before getting his asylum papers, he had to make means to survive.
I found it very difficult because as a professional nurse, I was working in theatre and I found myself having to work in a construction company, something that I was not used to. Anyway, I got an asylum seeker's permit, which is a Section 22 permit.
After following the proper process, he got his refugee status.
I went through the process of interviews where the refugee status determination officers had to interview me, and they determined that I qualified as a refugee in 2005. So from 2005, I've held this status as a refugee.
Nyati is the chairperson of a migrant workers association. He's also part of the African Academy for Excellence and Development. The new regulations will be quite restrictive to Nyati and others